conservation practitioners in the first ever international gathering dedicated to the leopard. As a lasting legacy of the Global Leopard Conference, International Leopard Day was officialized and endorsed to give it a meaningful place on the global wildlife calendar, encouraging conservation fraternity to act to save leopards. So today's webinar provides a timely platform to recognize not only the critical role that leopards play in maintaining ecosystem balance, but also the urgent need to address the complex threats they face today. So at the outset, I would like to invite Dr. S.P. Yadav, Director General of International Big Cat Alliance, to deliver the welcome address. Over
Thank
to you,
you,
sir.
Dr. Kaushik, and good afternoon to all distinguished speakers, colleagues, and participants joining us from across the world. On behalf of the IBCA, that is International Big Cat Alliance, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this webinar marking International Leopard Day. Greetings to you all. It is indeed encouraging to see such a diverse coming together to deliberate on the conservation of one of the most adaptable yet increasingly vulnerable big cats, the leopards. Leopards occupy a unique place in the ecological landscape. Their remarkable adaptability allows them to survive across a wide range of habitats, from dense tropical forests and mountainous terrains to human-dominated landscapes. However, this very adaptability often masks the growing threats they face, including habitat fragmentation, human-wildlife conflict, poaching, and the depletion of prey. Today's webinar brings together leading experts who will share insights on different subspecies and landscapes, from Africa to Persia to India and Southeast Asia. These perspectives are critical as leopard conservation is not confined to national boundaries. It is a shared responsibility that requires coordinated action, knowledge exchange, and sustained commitment. IBCA was established with the vision of fostering such global collaboration for conservation of big cat species. Platforms like this webinar play a vital role in facilitating dialogues, share best practices and experiences, and also strengthening partnerships across regions and disciplines. You may be aware that India is hosting the first International Big Cat Alliance Summit on 1st June 2026, which will be followed by deliberations, discussions, and brainstormings on all technical aspects of big cat conservation at global level. And all these big cats, that leopard is included in that. We are expecting participation of prime ministers and presidents of several range countries in this summit. We are also expecting participation of senior officials from all 95 range countries and all conservation organizations and financial institutions. You are to participate. My sincere appreciation to all our esteemed speakers for taking the time to contribute their expertise. I also thank all participants for joining us and for your continued dedication to wildlife conservation. With these words, I once again welcome you all and look forward to an engaging and insightful sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for wonderfully setting the context. So we would now start the technical session. We have an excellent lineup of eminent speakers with us today. We'll take up the questions and comments from our participants at the end of each talk. And I would also like to request all other participants to kindly keep their microphones mute while the talks are undergoing. So I would now like to invite Dr. Luke Hunter as the first speaker. Dr. Luke is the Executive Director of WCS Big Cats program and is considered one of the world's leading experts on the conservation of endangered carnivores and their habitats. Over to you, Dr. Luke.
Thank you so much, Kausik. I've shared my slides. Are you seeing them? Just confirm before I go ahead.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you very much to Dr. Yadav and the IBCA Secretariat for the invitation to speak to you all today about the leopard, a cat which is very close to my heart. I would like to begin, I think, with some context and caveats. So I was thrilled, of course, to be asked by the Secretariat to speak, but you know, as you know, is an extremely vast and diverse continent. Leopards live in at least 38 of its countries, the continental Africa, and another 3 or 4 perhaps that we're not sure about. And of course, as Dr. Yadav said, they occur in an extremely wide range of habitats and ecosystems, from the Congo Basin, where this photograph was taken, to the Namib and Kalahari deserts and everything in between. And so, in fact, if you exclude the little sandcat, which occurs in deep areas of the Sahara where the leopard doesn't, leopards are able to inhabit all the habitats in which the rest of Africa's cat species, 8 of them, are collectively found, extraordinarily adaptable species. And of course, in those 38 range countries, they comprise an extraordinarily diverse range of political and socioeconomic settings, which differently impact the conservation trajectory of the leopard. So with only about 5-6 minutes to cover this vast topic, what I'll try to do is distill what I think are the most important factors affecting leopard conservation in Africa. Many of them will be familiar outside Africa, of course, but also where I think the key priority lies. So a little more context before I do that. I do worry that because of that very, very wide distribution that you see here on the map and that marvelous adaptability that Dr. Yadav spoke about, leopards tend to be considered a fairly low conservation priority. And so, of course, it's true that they're faring better than some other big cat species, notably lions and tigers, but the species has suffered exactly the same pattern of range and population declines across its range, and especially so in Asia and Eurasia. And so, while it is most severe outside of Africa, the losses in Africa are very significant and continuing, as the most recent Red List assessment shows clearly, and the map is from that, and some of the information is from that. Now, of course, the reasons for that are not at all mysterious. The main drivers of leopard declines in Africa will be very familiar to my colleagues working on leopards outside of Africa. The first 3, of course, apply to leopards, and indeed all large cats and large carnivores in Asia, just as much as they do in Africa, of course. But for these, in the brief time I have, I'll attempt to provide a little context on each from Africa. Now, I draw your attention to number 4 on that list, legal hunting or sport or trophy hunting, which I have in parenthesis. The reason I have it in parenthesis is I mostly won't speak about it. It is unique to Africa. It's not permitted anywhere else. I think it's permitted currently, legal at least in 10 African countries, mostly in Southern and East Africa and not outside of Africa. And I think poorly regulated sport hunting is definitely a conservation issue. I've spent quite a lot of my career on that issue. But I think addressing it is both much less challenging than these other 3 very large drivers. And maybe more importantly, it doesn't compare to these big 3 in terms of the overall extent and the impact on Africa. So while I'm not going to talk about it, happy to take questions or discuss it later if there's time. So of those, the really big ones, and Dr. Yadav mentioned this first, which was really one of the continents. Africa still has the greatest percentage of its human population living in rural areas compared to urban areas, and also the greatest percentage practicing both agriculture and pastoralism or husbandry of livestock, caring of livestock. And both croplands and rangelands with livestock are still increasing in Africa, with the pressure particularly intense in West, Central, and East Africa. And so, you know, you have the direct conversion of natural habitats to croplands, which incidentally, that's happening more rapidly in rainforest than in savanna, but habitats everywhere are being affected. That precludes leopards, of course, and generally biodiversity, but overgrazing by livestock reduces the ability also of wild herbivores to persist. So leopard prey disappears. And then even when leopards persist in degraded habitats, Dr. Yadav referred to this, extraordinarily adaptable and able to persist in some anthropogenic habitats. But in those habitats, they're very vulnerable to persecution by livestock producers protecting their herds. So this convergence of factors associated with habitat loss means that leopards simply can't persist. And now, even when habitat does remain, leopards are often very, very challenged by the second major threat I consider, the loss of prey. And again, much of Africa stands out for very high rates of consumption of wild mammals by people. For many, many millions of people, wild meat is an essential source of protein, and many millions of tons of bushmeat are harvested annually from African ecosystems. So of course, this creates a conservation challenge for all large carnivores that rely on the same species. But I think it's especially keen for leopards in equatorial forest, where human hunters and leopards find themselves in direct competition for the same prey species like, the small forest antelopes, the dakas, and primates, and so on. And this chart, this is from a colleague of mine. He was a student at the time I was co-supervising, but Philip Henschel from Gabon worked on leopards in the Gabon rainforest. And it's very illustrative. It shows that impact of that competition, where abundance of leopards in their prey increases with the distance away from the nearest settlements. And I think if you have a look at the far left of that chart on site L1, it's especially interesting. There are no leopards there, but leopards are actually a totemic animal at site L1 for the local community, which prohibits their hunting. So I think it shows you that leopards don't need to be hunted directly to disappear from otherwise very suitable habitat. Now, the use of wild meat by people is particularly well studied in African forest ecosystems, but it's often forgotten. It's critical to note the same pressures apply across vast areas of savanna woodlands. And this analysis I'm showing you here shows the populations of wild ungulates, a prey species on which leopards and other big cats rely, are heavily depleted in more than half of 160, a sample of 186, protected areas across Africa. And I should note that we did this analysis actually focusing on lions. So we included some prey species like buffalo that are not important for leopards, that occasionally kill youngsters. But even so, I've no doubt that this basic pattern holds for leopards as for lions. Prey is depleted in many of the most significant areas in which leopards exist. And finally, illegal killing. Now, of course, that's a very broad term, a very broad umbrella category that takes many forms with many, many underlying motives and drivers. And I thought in the very limited time I had, I'd like to highlight an especially interesting example on which I've been involved. That's the use of leopards by leopard parts, leopard skin, leopard fur by African communities as part of their religious and cultural belief systems. And so this photograph shows members of the Shembe Church in South Africa, whose male followers have adopted the tradition of Zulu royalty in wearing leopard skin capes. Now, the problem is the royalty, there are very, very few people who are entitled to wear leopard skin capes, but the members of the Shembe Church, and that demand the demand for leopard skins amounts to an estimated 800 leopards killed every year, as estimated by my colleagues at Panthera. And so while this is, it's important to note, this is technically against the law, it's technically illegal, but not attempting to clamp down on what, again, in principle is an illegal activity, but by one of the more innovative projects I've been involved in, which is the folks at Panthera manufacture high-quality synthetic leopard fur capes, which are then provided to the community. And they do really, really robust monitoring, and that's shown over time by monitoring how many people are wearing the synthetic capes versus real leopard fur capes. It successfully reduced the demand for real leopards by a little over 50%. Okay, so this is one of the many example of the many solutions and priorities in conserving leopards across Africa. But in closing, I have very brief time to talk about those priorities. So I'm going to condense, and I warn you, I'll oversimplify massively here, but I think I'd like to emphasize what is perhaps not the only priority, but perhaps the most important. And I think that is investing in Africa's extraordinary system of protected areas. And so the reason I say that, it holds extraordinary value for leopard conservation for many reasons. So it's incredibly extensive. The percentage of land allocated by many African countries under protection is very, very high, far exceeding that protected by more affluent countries here in the global north. And I've given some figures there in East, Central, and the parks themselves, the entities are often very massive. And some of the green blobs you can see on that area are larger than some countries. They're really, really extraordinarily large. The blob in the center of Botswana there, down in the southern part of Africa, at the Central Kalahari Game Reserve, is the size of Costa Rica. So extraordinarily large. They're also, not universally, of course, but many, many of these parks, huge and extensive, very intact. They still have a great deal of habitat. So while you do get that challenge of the empty forest that I spoke about earlier with the loss of prey, there is extraordinary amount of available leopard habitat left. And then, of course, while they're engines for the protection of biodiversity, which I think all of us on the call are really interested in, they're also engines for economies. And so just as India's magnificent tiger reserves draw visitors from around the world, tourism, with all the employment opportunities it offers, is a critical source of revenue for many African nations. And of course, there's additional jobs in management, conservation, infrastructure development, maintenance, and often associated investment in community enterprises emanating from protected areas. And finally, I think African governments have been especially innovative in the challenges in protecting this vast conservation real estate and developing new models to deliver that essential robust protection, especially co-management or delegated management between government and the private sector, including NGOs like the one I work for, WCS, and many others. So in closing, I'd like to leave you with the idea that while there is no single priority, of course, that will ensure the future of the leopard across Africa, a robust, very robust, well-managed system of protected areas is absolutely essential. And of course, it will protect not only the leopard, millions of other species, and as well, I think, as the livelihoods and very, very important co-benefits to tens of millions of people living in Africa. Thanks very much for listening. Back to you, Kausik.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Luke, for an insightful talk. And we are really thankful for your engagement even at this odd midnight hour in the USA. I would now invite
Pleasure.
questions for Dr. Luke. So there is a question. What role can international cooperation play in securing a future for leopards across Africa?
Sorry, what role was, could you just repeat the question?
International cooperation play?
Of course, yes. Yeah, well, I think it's fora like this are really, really, of course, where I find in conservation where, you know, we're often working in our own backyards, in our own areas, and it tends to be siloed. So exchange of information is really important. This is where I think the IBCA has a really pivotal role, because it's a very serious, you know, significant platform to be able to exchange information. I think, you know, I mean, I gave an one that other countries might be interested in exploring, so that government to government relationships sort of transfer that expertise, that knowledge. And similarly, in the other direction, of course, India is extremely notable for the very high percentage of leopards living outside protected areas. And so, you know, how India manages to do that with such a huge human population density and pressures on leopards is another example of that expertise that I think other countries in Africa and elsewhere can learn from. So it's very important. As much as we're able to cooperate, and the opportunities to share information like even our seminar today are really useful, really essential. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Luke. There's a question from Dr. Andrew Kushrin. Thanks for your excellent presentation. Do you see a need for and a realistic path to a global leopard protection program, sort of similar to GTRP or GSLEP? And if so, what may be the hardest obstacles to it so far?
Well, such a thing, Andre, I think that would be fantastic. And I, you know, as I mentioned early in the presentation, the leopard has often been ignored. So while global community has come together around tiger in particular, and look at the results of that. You know, the tiger is now starting to recover. We have more tigers now than we did 15 years ago, and India, the government and country of India, has played an enormously significant role in that. So I think emulating that for the leopard would be enormously useful. It would be one hopes we would have the same success as has been viewed with the tiger. In terms of obstacles, while many, I mean, you know, there are many obstacles. Some of them are political, some of them are personal. I think mobilizing funds, you know, this is always the challenge that conservationists have to spend inevitably a lot of time a lot of time on. And so being able to mobilize funds, and again, that's to emulate what I think has happened with the Tiger Forum and the whole Tiger process, where governments have been inspired to increase or adopt new measures to invest in conservation in their own countries. And as well as the international community and organizations like my own, who of course rely on philanthropy and being able to raise funds from other organizations, from multilaterals and other sources. So again, always at the end of the day, one of the biggest obstacles, I think, will be being able to raise funding. Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll take the last question for you. There are several questions, but we'll like communicate them to you over email and
Surely.
then we'll circulate. But there is a last question for you. How do you see the potential for leopard recovery from the regions in Africa from where they have been locally exterminated?
Yes, yeah, that's a terrific question. I think Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, is going through an extraordinary transformation, a socioeconomic transformation, which of course much of the rest of the world is doing or has done, in which people become more affluent, more urban, they're looking for jobs in the cities, and that is where really the sort of the future lies. And I think that creates enormous potential for recovery. And so just as we've seen, I live in the US, and the gradual depopulation of the Midwest is enabling mountain lions, the large cat, very like a leopard actually ecologically, to start recolonizing east and head east. And so I think that process, that socioeconomic development that uplifts a community, it creates space for wild places for species like leopards to recover. And so many countries, Zambia, Tanzania, Botswana, are undergoing that transformation now. And I think in future, I'm very hopeful that will create opportunities for leopards to both naturally recover from areas they already exist, and also to be able to be reintroduced, which has already happened to a small degree. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Luke. So I would now like to invite Dr. Igor Khorazan as the next speaker for the webinar. Dr. Igor is a co-chair of the Persian Leopard Working Group and coordinates the work of members from 12 range countries of Persian leopards. Over to you, Dr. Igor.
Please unmute yourself,
Please
Dr.
unmute yourself, Dr. Igor. Dr. Igor, you need to unmute yourself. You are muted.
Yes, let me share again. Do you see it?
No, not yet.
Okay. I get different buttons. Yes, do you see now?
Yeah, now it's visible, but you have to make it full screen.
Yes. Is it okay now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Due to limited time, I will try to speak very short in a nutshell about conservation of the Persian leopard and what's going on here. Because I can speak for hours, there are lots of things happening here and not directly involving Persian leopard in many cases. But first, I want to start with the IBCA red list assessment that we did recently about the status. And as previously in 2008, and now it's classified as endangered. And you see the map, the most recent map of the range. And also here are the numbers of the subpopulations that we delineated. And you see that the largest populations in the numbers of mature individuals and total population size are in subpopulation 2 and 3, which are covering Iran and also some of the neighboring countries. And in total, we have over 750 individuals, but definitely not reaching the threshold of 2,500, which may classify it as less threatened status. So now it's endangered because the total population size is less than 2,500, and not a single subpopulation reaches the threshold of 2,250 individuals, mature individuals, as even in the largest population in Northern Iran and Central Asia. And also we observe a continuous decline of populations in general and in particular populations. We also recently assessed the Persian leopard for its green status, which measures the ability, the capacity of the population to recover in response to conservation activities. And our team did it this way. We separated the population into 7 spatial units according to their similarity and habitat similarity, social, political, and similar situations. And we get quite an illogical situation at the first sight that conservation legacy is low, conservation dependence and conservation gains are 0, and conservation recovery potential is medium. So let me explain why is that. Conservation legacy, it measures the survival of the population without conservation. So what we get as a baseline. And its legacy is low because without conservation, we would definitely lose the population in many of these special units, but in most cases, leopards would still survive because till now, they survive mostly outside of protected areas. And protected areas is the first conservation measure that we can apply in relation to leopards and other big cats. Conservation dependence and conservation gains, they estimate the effectiveness of conservation. So what we get with and without conservation, and here we have 0 effect. So at first sight, it would mean that doing leopard conservation doesn't make sense because anyway, we have a 0 effect, but it's a technical issue because the criteria of the green list, they specify the period of 10 years to assess the effectiveness of conservation. And 10 years is definitely not enough to assess the recovery of leopard populations because I will speak about it a bit later. We have a long-term WWF project in the Caucasus, which started in 2002 and still continues. So we have over 20 years, but still we don't have a viable population. We don't still have even a true population because most of the individuals, yes, they increased in numbers, but most of them, they are just dispersing or resident males. And we have only one or few very compact, very small places where females breed. So it's a kind of a spillover of the population over larger areas without being a true population. So we need to be very patient and we need to allocate much more time than just 10 years to see the results of long-term conservation. And definitely we need to be very patient and yeah, we all know about that. But in the long term, over 100 years, we have a medium chance potential for recovery, but only in the case when all the countries are mobilized to do it together simultaneously at the same time. But now we are far from this reality, and we only can hope that the situation will change into the better someday. So the threats are, I think, the same as everywhere in the leopard range. It's illegal killing, especially in response to livestock killing, and potential and often perceived danger to humans. Prey depletion is widespread, again, due to illegal killing and competition with livestock. And this prey depletion is partially responsible for livestock killing by leopards and the creation of persistent human-leopard conflict over livestock depredation. Habitat loss is especially important for females because you know that females are uh, very sensitive to habitat quality, where they can raise their cubs and where they can survive, where they need sufficient food. And landscape fragmentation, making the population to split into isolated parcels. And you know that even though in some cases, all in Iran, they look quite continuous and look like safe, large-scale tracts of good habitats. Actually, it's not so, because when we go into fine scales, fragmentation is everywhere, and leopards have more and more barriers to move across. And this is also aggravated by this political unrest, infrastructure development, or wars, construction of roads, pipelines, and all this stuff that doesn't leave space for leopards to survive, not to say about thriving at all. Climate change is also a problem because its effects are very strong in Southwest Asia, and desertification is very widespread and it's evident everywhere. But you know, the leopard is quite tolerant to temperatures and it's not quite sensitive to habitats, but its prey are sensitive to habitats. So it's a kind of a cascade effect that habitats affect prey and prey affect leopards. And in this case, we have both dual uh, loss and gain of habitats in terms of climate change. So some habitats will turn unsuitable over time, and some of them will turn from unsuitable to suitable. So it's a kind of a trade-off between. So it's hard to say whether the leopard will benefit or lose, but we are more inclined to believe that it will benefit more than lose. And saying about fragmentation, I deliberately didn't mention political issues, but we have huge political and social fragmentation of the range that directly or indirectly affect the status of Persian leopard and generally all wildlife and biodiversity in the region. Recently, we all together with our big team of dedicated people developed a range-wide strategy for the conservation of the Persian leopard. We met in Georgia in 2022 to develop it, and it was officially adopted in 2024. Originally, the initiative to develop this strategy came from the Convention on Migratory Species, and particularly its Central Asian Mammals Initiative, because they included the Persian leopard as it's one of the focal species, and they needed such a strategy to move forward. And also the strategy mentions that they need to assign an organization which would be responsible for managing and promoting this strategy. And this organization was our Persian Leopard Working Group, which is an international network of specialists from all the range countries and beyond, from other countries who work in our region. And this working group was established in 2023 to promote implementation of the strategy. And so far, I don't know why this strategy is mentioned on the website as draft, but it's officially already approved by the range countries. So we implement it on place. To promote international cooperation between our pellet group and other partners, we already signed one MOU with Leopards Beyond Borders, an NGO from Iraqi Kurdistan. It's already signed and active. And we're at the final stage to sign this MOU with WWF Germany, especially with its focus on the Caucasus region. And also we hope to sign it during the IBCA summit in India this June with the International Big Cat Alliance. Conservation on the ground. What do we have now on the ground? So we have protected areas which are spread throughout countries, but their densities are very, very different, from about 2% in Afghanistan to over 36% in the Russian North Caucasus. So everything depends on capacities, motivations, political will of the countries, and that's what I meant by saying political fragmentation. So the role of these protected areas is very different, but in many cases they play a crucial role in maintaining the core groups that provide kind of local sources to allow animals to spread over large areas. We have arguably the longest Persian leopard project, which is the leopard monitoring project in the South Caucasus of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, which is implemented by the Caucasus offices of WWF and also WWF in Germany and Switzerland since 2002. In 2001, the Nakhichevan Republic of Azerbaijan declared the hunting ban, which hugely magnified the effect of our WWF project in that region because it was a dual positive effect of these initiatives. We have also another long-term project of leopard reintroduction in the Russian North Caucasus, but very little information is available about that because of sanctions and other restrictions. There are kind of small and activities government supported by also carried out by NGOs, academia, and universities in Iraq, Iran, Iraqi Kurdistan, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, and Turkey. And also we have always passionate individuals whom I deeply appreciate their patience and dedication, devotion. I don't know what to say. They don't receive money. They just stay on the ground. They try their best. And first of all, in Afghanistan, I keep contact with those people as much as possible and try to help them as much as we can. But you know, the situation, I wouldn't like to tell more about that. And such passionate people are in all the countries of the range. So what are the top priorities on the political instability in the region that we have now? First of all, we need capacity building of all kinds by domestic and international specialists, professional training, education, awareness raising, and particularly we developed such cooperation program with IBCA, and we hope that India will help us because India has huge experience in capacities in dealing with human leopard conflicts, in training rangers and other activities. We need establishment and strengthening of international fundraising and exchange programs as much as we can. We understand these political restrictions, that cooperation with Iran as the main range country is not possible, but we're trying to find ways to solve this issue. But I don't know how to do it now after the war. Promotion of transboundary, first of all, with in Iran and neighboring countries, and regional and global cooperation, because you know that the issue of connectivity is of top priority for Persian leopard survival, because it's split into hundreds and thousands of minor populations, which are increasingly isolated because, as I told, because of these infrastructure development, roads and other stuff. It's quite risky to implement one global project across all the range, but it would be very practical to implement it as small startup projects at local and national levels, and then to expand them into larger projects, ideally by involving 2 and more transboundary countries. And also, it's a priority to launch and maintain the long-term program of the range-wide monitoring, because we need to know what's going on the ground. And we already developed the methodology. It would be based on occupancy modeling, based on the grid cells across the range. So we don't need to specify exact places. So this information would not be sensitive. So people would be open to report that information, and we would just allocate particular grid cells for presence or absence. It would be a very practical and feasible way to indicate leopard presence or absence, and to see where we have hotspots where we need to concentrate more efforts in conservation. And finally, thank you, and I welcome you to visit our website of our Persian leopard working group, which is quite informative, and you particularly would be interested, for example, to go to our library resources, where we collected as many as possible publications in different languages about Persian leopards, in all and each range country, and also in transboundary aspects and in global range and regional aspects. So that's all for now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Igor, for a wonderful talk. So there are 2 3 questions for you, but I think you have already addressed most of them. So there is a question by Dr. Andre Kushlin, which you have already addressed. It's regarding the uh, practicality of the reintroduction programs in Northern Caucasus that you have already addressed. There's a question by Krishna Chaitanya regarding the cross-country coordination that also you have addressed. There is a question by Sripati Vaishnav, that is the last question we'll be taking up. That is, how functional are transboundary corridors for Persian leopards today? And are they sufficient to support natural dispersal between the fragmented populations?
It's hard to say because we don't have proper monitoring in these transboundary issues. But for example, it's still a strong effect of immigration from northeastern Iran to Turkmenistan, because northeastern Iran holds the largest population and there are individuals going to and from Turkmenistan. But Turkmenistan also has this borderline fence, which does not allow leopards to go deep into Turkmenistan. So they just come across the fence and go back. So the functional role of this immigration is hard to estimate scientifically. In terms of the Caucasus, formerly we had regular immigration of leopards from Iran across the Arax River. But in recent times, in the last decade, maybe we don't keep records, we don't have records of leopards coming from Iran, because the situation in that part of Iran is very dire, and the population here in the Caucasus is slowly recovering. So it's my impression, quite subjective, that our population is still small, but it tries to maintain itself as much as it can with minimum reliance on immigration from Iran.
Yeah,
But other countries still appear to depend on Iran for immigration, like Turkey, Iraq, and other countries.
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Igor.
Thank
So
you.
I would now like to invite Dr. Anthony Lynham as the next speaker for the webinar. With over 30 years of experience conducting research and using evidence-based approaches to advise wildlife conservation projects and initiatives, Dr. Lynham currently works for the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence, designing conservation solutions and managing partnerships for Earth Ranger Asia Oceania. Over to you, Dr. Lynham.
Well, thank you, Dr. Yadav, and thank you to the IBCA Secretariat for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. And what I'll do is share my slides. I hope you can see them. And
You have to make the
yes,
slides clear. Yes, now it's perfect.
okay, great. So I wanted to thank you for the invitation to speak today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we are supporting at Earth Ranger that involves a couple of different projects in the range of the leopard. So firstly, I'm going to talk to you about a project that we're supporting in Saudi Arabia, and this is work that's done by the Royal Commission for Alula. I'm going to first start off by explaining a little bit about the background to Earth Ranger, because some of you may not be very familiar with us. So Earth Ranger is one of the programs of the Allen Institute for AI, or AI2. And AI2 was founded by the late Microsoft co-founder Paul G. Allen. It's a non-profit organization dedicated to AI and technology for good. Earth Ranger is one of the programs for the environment. And our Earth Ranger team has more than 50 people, developers, engineers, and support staff in countries around the world. So with that background, I just wanted to show you that Earth Ranger is actually being used for conservation by many, many people. There were last month about 75,000 active users across 904 sites around the world, including many of the range countries where leopards are found. And why should Earth Ranger be of interest to your conservation project Well, first of all, it's really easy to use, and all of your data, all of the data and information that you're collecting can be brought together in one platform and one dashboard, making it easy for you to organize your information and then make decisions. Possible to see information in real time, so you can see where your patrols are happening, where your animals are moving, where your vehicles and other assets are located. And you can also see information on weather and on fire and on other environmental things, that indicators that you might be recording. EarthRanger is data-driven, so it is focused on being able to extract the data from your project, make it available to people that need to have that information, and make decisions. It's device agnostic, which means that you can mix and match any of your hardware and your tools, and you can use any of the existing systems that you're working with and devices in EarthRanger. And lastly, and most importantly, there's no cost to using EarthRanger. We've developed this platform and the apps that go with it, and we're giving it away for free to any conservation organization, institution that wants to have these tools. So the software, the training, and the ongoing support is free, which means that you can focus your grant funds in doing the actual conservation on the ground. So let's think about the EarthRanger, the use cases for EarthRanger. So the common use cases are for ecological management, for monitoring and protecting your leopards or your other wildlife and ecosystems, and for studying human-wildlife coexistence, for collecting information on where conflict is occurring and promoting sustainable practices, allowing coordination of your conservation to happen inside your sites. EarthRanger is also used a lot for security, for doing park protection, for organizing ranger patrols, and organizing the information that comes from those ranger patrols so that managers can better protect the places where you're working to save the leopards. And finally, EarthRanger is used a lot for logistics, for helping to streamline operations, identifying infrastructure that require repairs and maintenance. So they're the four main areas where EarthRanger is being used in conservation. And here are the tools that we have in the EarthRanger suite. First of all, there's the EarthRanger web platform. So you log in and you see your dashboard, you see all of the data in one place. There's a mobile app that works with your handphone, and using the EarthRanger mobile app, you can record data, you can see things happening, you can track the leopards or the assets that you're using to protect the leopards. You can see things in real time. There's a tool called Ecoscope that allows you to create summaries of data and reports. And of course, this is very important for park managers and people who need to report on progress in their conservation interventions. So Ecoscope is a tool for taking the data that's been collected in EarthRanger and making it available to managers. And finally, there's a tool called Gundi, which is a glue in Swahili. And Gundi is a tool for bringing data from all of your devices into EarthRanger. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So here's what EarthRanger looks like. And the really cool thing about EarthRanger is it allows you to see everything in one place. So you can do visual analysis, you can see where your animals have been moving, where your teams are moving, where things are happening as we speak. You can also look at what happened in the past. You can take the little slider at the bottom of the page and you can move it back and forth, and you can see where things have moved from the past to the present. So you can replay events to understand what is happening at the site. You can use the visualization platform to better understand trends, spatial trends, and temporal trends and patterns. And you can explore what's driving individual actions, what's moving your leopards, what's affecting the leopards or your other wildlife and causing them to behave as they are. Gundi is a tool that allows you to bring in data from GPS collars, from tracked vehicles, from aircraft, from camera traps, from weather stations, from the mobile app, from digital radios, from remote sensing tools. And you can bring all of the information that you're currently using, and you can see it in one place. And let me get back to my presentation. And now one of the tools that you can see is connected camera traps. So one of the things that you can bring in from Gundi is your camera trap data. So if you have connected camera traps, AI connected camera traps, for example, you would be able to see the data that comes from those camera traps if you're in a network. So for example, here, the example of leopards in Turkmenistan. So there's a team that is run by Conservation X Labs, and they are using AI connected camera traps to understand the behavior of leopards. And you can see the leopards are captured by these camera traps, the data is processed, and then the data is sent into EarthRanger so that you can see it in real time. And it's really cool. So there's an example of one of the sources of data that you can bring in. Another type of data is data from collars. So if you have GPS collars on your leopards or on your other wildlife, you're able to track them in real time. So we can do an integration with many different types of collars so that you can bring in your collar data. You can see the animals in real time. Then you can respond to what the animals might be doing. We can also set up geofences so that if your leopard walks out of the protected area or walks into a built-up area or near a village, you will get some information in an alert that allows you to then respond and send your teams out to respond. So here are some of the more than 100 different devices and software platforms and data sources that are possible to integrate with EarthRanger. And you might see some of the tools that you're actually using yourselves in this slide here. So I want to talk a little bit about the Cape Leopard Trust. And the Cape Leopard Trust is one of our partners working to protect leopards in South Africa. And I want to talk a little bit about this amazing project that Cape Leopard Trust is doing in the Western Cape. So Cape Leopard Trust, their mission is to protect leopards and leopard landscapes and to support coexistence between humans and wildlife. And Cape Leopard Trust has been using EarthRanger across a range of projects since 2024. And EarthRanger has turned out to be a very, very valuable tool for them when they're conducting camera trap surveys. So they are doing camera trap surveys to estimate population densities of leopards. And EarthRanger is used to log operational field data and to log the camera trap deployments, to record the types of camera trap services and when camera traps are uploaded and taken down. Some of the information that's collected by EarthRanger is the location of the camera site and the field officer and the field team involved and the settings of the cameras used. And Cape Leopard Trust is currently in the testing phase of a mobile predator-proof kraal project that aims to prevent livestock predation. EarthRanger has proven to be an invaluable tool for capturing and managing data throughout the process. And there are 7 event categories through which reports are submitted using EarthRanger. These include Moby kraal deployment, Moby kraal usage, Moby kraal collection, conflict reports, camera deployments, and camera services and camera takedowns. This is all recorded using EarthRanger. And finally, EarthRanger is a great tool for logging and responding human-wildlife conflict incidents. So the Cape Leopard Trust is doing this in a number of really innovative ways. They have conflict calls So when they receive a conflict call, all relevant details are captured in a conflict call event category, and information about the details of livestock that are lost, species that are affected, any damage that's done, any damage to individuals or the farm, that's all recorded using EarthRanger. A carcass inspection is recorded and photos are taken of the carcass. EarthRanger is used to record bite marks and damage patterns and photographic evidence. And camera traps are also recorded where appropriate. The camera traps that are used at the site might be recorded in EarthRanger so that the predators can be recorded by those camera traps. And then finally, tracks and signs that are occurring around a conflict site are also recorded. Observations such as leopard spoor and scat and scratch marks and leopard presence is also recorded. And the Cape Leopard Trust also use EarthRanger to capture snare data and patrols under the event category snare report. So EarthRanger is used to capture the location, distance, and time of the patrols, and they log snares when they find out those snares are detected on patrols. So the collection of snare data is part of a collaborative project called Snare Free that effectively responds to and raises awareness about illegal wildlife snaring in the Western Cape region. And if you're interested, you can go to the Snare Free website and find out more about that project. Yes, so thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And if you're interested in knowing more about EarthRanger, if we'd like to set up EarthRanger for your site, please feel free to contact me. And thank you. And if you'd like to put your questions into the chat, I can type my answers back to you while the next speaker is speaking. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dr. Anthony, for a very insightful presentation. I think you can actually directly, respond to the questions which have been put in the chat box. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite the next speaker, Dr. Govind Sagar Bharadwaj, for the webinar. Dr. Bharadwaj is a senior Indian Forest Service officer and currently serving as the director of the prestigious Wildlife Institute of India. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushik. Very greetings to all of you who are present. Okay, I'll talk about leopards in India, the issues that we are facing with respect to human leopard conflict. Is it okay? Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. So, if we see, India is also considered as nowadays it's a country of big cats, as it's the only country which is having 5 big cats which are roaming on Indian landscape, including tiger, a lion, snow leopard, cheetah, and Indian leopard. If we see the distribution map of big cats across the globe, then as per IUCN, the extent of areas for tiger is approximately 1 million square kilometers. For a lion, 1.5 million square kilometers. For snow leopard, it is 1.7 million square kilometers. For cheetah, it's 3.1. And if you see for leopard, it is 7.6 million square kilometers. It really shows it's very, very widely distributed big cat. And if we see different subspecies of leopard across the globe, across the world, that have 8 subspecies, including Persian, Arabian, African, Amur, Indo-Chinese, Javan, Sri Lankan, and Indian leopard. It's only the Indian subspecies, which is the Panther pardus fusca, which is nearly threatened. The rest of the species are either vulnerable, endangered, critical endangered, as per the IUCN list. Next. The question arises, everybody knows that why leopards are very, very adaptable. Why leopards are the most adaptable among all the cats? See, the reason very simple. The prey species and their weight if we compare with all these big five cats, so for leopard, it has been established and been observed that it preys on between 30 to 50 species. For lions, plus 40. For snow leopard, it has been observed that it preys between 20 to 25 species. And cheetah, it has been observed it preys on species from 30 to 55 species. However, if we see a leopard, it preys on more than 100 plus species. It has a very, very wide range, and the weight of these species ranges from 30 kilogram to 200 kilogram, 30 gram to 200 kilogram. Still, this is a species of concern. If we see the biology of an Indian leopard, its population ranges between 12,000 to 40,000 across the subcontinent. The weight of males is slightly larger than females, and its geographic distribution of this subspecies in Indian subcontinent, all the states, including all the states and also neighboring states, including Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, and China. And if we see its dietary pattern, it's very true carnivores that are excellent ambush predators, and they feed on anything they can overpower, ranging from mid-sized ungulates to domestic livestock, dogs, birds, rodents, and even small cattle. And it's mostly nocturnal, and sometimes it also shows presence during dusk and dawn. But in human-dominated landscape, totally nocturnal. So if we see the density, leopard density can reach up to 5 animals per 100 square meters, even in very, very dense human populations, places like Western India. And if we see the threats on this species, as per the traffic study reports that were conducted between 2001 and 2010, at least 2 leopards were killed each week for illegal wildlife trade in India. However, now it's not only the illegal wildlife trade, but it's retaliatory killing, poisoning, and poaching, including road kills. That these reasons are also increasing day by day. So far, Wildlife Institute of India has conducted 2 status surveys on leopards, one in 2018 and other was conducted in 2022. And based on these reports, the figures, and based on early reports, the population was around approximately 12,850. And the recent status approximately 13,800. These are studies which have been conducted so far as leopard is concerned, but most of the studies are only related to human leopard conflict. And now, most of the time we keep talking about it's only conflict scenarios about this species. And if you look at the habitat where it is found, it's found everywhere in all kinds of habitats, whether it's a tropical dry deciduous forest or rainforest or in Himalayas or even in sugarcane fields or even in urban areas. It's found everywhere. It's most adaptable cat that its range, its presence ranges in all biogeographical regions of the country, and it can thrive in urban and peri-urban landscape. Variety, if we see the variety of dietary choice, whatever it's getting, it's feeding. So it ranges from poultry to bandicoot rats, to dogs, and to civets, and even to many birds, including people. You can see the one photograph here. This laboratory killed. They are all waiting for what all so that can go. If we compare leopards inside and outside protected areas, we do have national parks and sanctuaries, and if we see habitat conditions inside PA network, the habitat conditions are very, very stable. And that's because of very high degree of protection and very high law implementing. And there's also very good availability of natural prey in this. And that's only because of legal protection that reduces human pressure on this. As a result, leopard populations inside PAs are always stable. However, we see outside PNR, we do have leopards, and these are also areas having very high food availability, not only natural prey, but also including domestic animals and also small prey. And they do have exceptional adaptability to human-dominated environments, which include mosaic of forests, agriculture and plantation, and also urban areas. Leopards can also use crop fields, shrub forest, and forest patches to survive and move safely. It does, again, I'm repeating, it's very most adaptable cat in all biogeographical regions. It lives in all the landscapes. However, it is also most vulnerable cat in India. That's simple reason, very simple. We are a population of 1.4 billion, and it's very high human pressure everywhere. That's why we are facing these kind of scenarios, either retaliatory killings by unofficial, or also by official guns, and also mortality of these animals through because of infrastructure, so road network, or also by railway tracks. And if we see the figures and compare with just 2 years, in 2024, there were mortality reported mortality of leopard that was 544, and in 2025, it is 542. So these are the main reasons of leopard killing, including retaliatory killings, poaching incidents, road accidents, railway accidents, or even by electrocution. These are increasing day by day. And this is a scenario whenever any leopard goes to any village or any urban area, it's a mob which always created this kind of havoc. Dealing with the animal by the forest officials is okay, but dealing with the mob is always a challenge. You can see from this slide. And most of the time, one of the response of the management, local management, is to shift the problematic animal. Once the animal is proved that it's problematic, that animal is captured and taken to nearby sanctuary or nearby forest areas, and that animal is translocated there. But sometimes this is also a great problem. Now I'm just sharing with you one case, one study that was conducted in Junar Forest Division of Maharashtra. So Maharashtra Forest Department in early 20s, 2020, they were facing the problem of human-leopard conflict. So Wildlife Institute of India was invited and was given task to really follow some of the individuals. So for Wildlife Institute of India, scientists captured leopards, 10 leopards, and radio collared the same. And you can see this is the map showing the movement pattern of all the leopards which were captured based on their radio telemetry signals. So based on their findings, out of 10 leopards which were captured in May, June 2024, just within 1 month, 6 new individuals occupied the same area from where these leopards were shifted. And within 2 months, 13 new individuals came to that vacant area. So there's a very interesting dynamics that has been observed. So it is resident versus transient. So how to understand the leopard behavior in human landscape. See, we do have established resident leopards. They are called settled adults in a particular area. And when we are having settled animals, they are occupying that area for many years. They do have predictable and territorial. So older individuals that occupy stable home ranges near villages and forest areas, that's their behavior. But when we remove these stable established residents from that area in the name of conflict animals, then what happens? The young dispersal from adjoining areas, these are also called erratic transit. They come and occupy these vacant spaces once these established residents are removed. And it are these young dispersals which are creating, which have been found to create problems. And these are also considered high-risk transitioners. The sub-adults move from the little areas in search of vacant cats, and then they create a problem because they are not very well versed about these vacant areas. So capture results in removal of established residents, and that how it is changing the scenario. See, it's actually in a country like India, where it's all human-dominated landscape and there are also wild animals, and it's like imperfect coexistence. The animals both are existing, both are living together. They use their experience to navigate these animals, these established residents, older animals. They use their experience to navigate human presence, and they always avoid direct encounter that is based on study. And this also, it is chronic but manageable conflict. If we can manage, because we know their pattern, movement pattern, we can educate people, we can generate awareness among people, and we can do sensitization among the masses. However, whenever we remove such animals, because of the young dispersed, they have occupied their territory, that's always erratic and exploratory. That will always lead to conflict because of their young age, inexperience, and that is actually an acute and unpredictable conflict that is really difficult to manage. That's what the findings we are doing. So capture and release result in demographic shift. A young and experienced individual gets territories, and that is more conflict. Okay. So what should be done? We need to increase the tenureship and decrease the reproductive potential. That is one solution that we are suggesting. And from capture to coexistence, that's this pictographic shows. The failure of reactive removal is always lead to removal that triggers population turnover. Vacated territory is always quickly filled by younger and unpredictable individuals, sustaining the countryside. But whenever these animals are shifting, the young individuals will always go to human-dominated landscape and will be a problem. And what we are suggesting, that is demographic management solutions to protect older entitled individuals. These are experienced leopards that suppress excessive recruitment and provide more predictable and stable social structures. And simultaneously, we need to go for strategic or very scientific immunocontraception, and that is targeted birth control, reduces recruitment without social instability caused by animal. So we need to have one criteria, that is the criteria for demographic solution, that should be scientifically validated, logistically feasible, and socially acceptable. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful perspective. So, considering the time, we'll just take only one question. Uh, uh, that was from Dr. Igor. So, he is asking, what is the reason for an unbelievably high density of leopards in Jhalana?
Hey, Jhalana is a very small forest that the two forest blocks are hardly 40 square kilometers for 20 to 40 square kilometers. And the high density of leopard is because very high degree of protection. It's all surrounded by concrete jungle, wall, and very active management by the local forest officials. They are not allowing mortality or retaliatory killing or any poaching in that area. That is one of the reasons.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for enriching us. So we would now like to invite the last speaker for today's webinar, Dr. Hario Vibisono. Dr. Vibisono, also known as Bibat, is a conservation scientist with 30 plus years of experience in wildlife ecology and large carnivore conservation, and currently leads Sintas Indonesia. Over to you, Dr. Vibisono.
Thank you, sir. I would like to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in this webinar. Distinguished colleagues, partners, friends, and participants. It is an honor to welcome you today as we gather to reflect on the future of one of Indonesia's most iconic yet imperiled species, the Javan leopard. This presentation, Javan leopard status, challenges, and roadmap is not yet just about the challenges we face, but about the opportunities we have to act decisively. The Javan leopard stands as a symbol of resilience, yet its survival depends on our collective commitment to science, community, and governance. Java is one of the most densely populated islands in the world. This high human density places enormous pressure on land, shaping nearly every part of the landscape. If we look at the map, we see a mosaic of land uses. Large portions of the island are dominated by agriculture, settlements, and infrastructure, here shown in red and lighter tones. The remaining forested areas, primarily in green, are fragmented and mostly confined to mountainous regions or protected area. The spatial arrangement tells an important story. Wildlife, including the Javan leopard, do not live in vast, continuous wilderness. Instead, they persist within a highly modified, human-dominated landscape. Together, these forces create a complex and challenging environment for conservation. The Java leopard is not just dealing with ecological constraints, it is navigating a landscape shaped by intense and ongoing human activities. So, what does this mean for the Javan leopard? The conditions we just saw directly translate into a set of interconnected conservation challenges. First, habitat loss and fragmentations, driven by mainly past and future land conversion, reduce and isolate suitable habitat. Second, human-wildlife conflict becomes inevitable when leopards and people share the same places. Third, protected area gaps emerge because many important habitats fall outside formal conservation areas and connectivity is obviously lacking. Fourth, a limited conservation investment constrains our ability to respond effectively at scale. Finally, there is often a disconnect between conservation priorities and local realities. Conservation strategies may not always align with community needs, knowledge, or economic pressures. The species is now classified as endangered, reflecting the cumulative impact of this pressure. This slide shows the current status and distribution of the Javan leopard of the IUCN Red List. Most of the island is now classified as extinct for the species, with remaining populations confined to small, scattered forest patches. This reflects a highly fragmented distribution rather than a continuous range. We estimated around 29 suitable habitats with a total of about 320 mature individuals. Most importantly, we believe that each landscape holds fewer than 50 adults, making populations highly vulnerable to local extinction. So the key message is clear. The challenge is not just small numbers, but habitat isolations across the island. Therefore, we propose the following pathway to secure the future of the Javan leopard. First, we need to conduct the population assessment to estimate population size, distribution, and habitat use using camera traps, field survey, and local knowledge. Second, we will facilitate population viability analysis to assess extinction risk, and identify key threats, habitat needs, and conservation priorities. Then we will use the assessment to develop the strategy and action plan. And then we implement and evaluate the action plan. And last but not least, we need to keep monitoring to continuous monitoring population and habitat and adapt whatever we get from the evaluations. And we would address this by integrating stakeholders' engagement, policy, habitat protection, and technological innovation. We hope that it will establish a reproducible model for long-term Javan leopard recovery. Now, what have we done so far? Started in February 2024, we started the national camera trap survey for the Javan leopard that we call as the Java White Leopard Survey. We target a total of 21 landscapes. We plan to set up up to 1,200 camera trap stations, covering a total of more than 4,000 kilometers square. Along the survey, we also aim to do sketch samples to study the population structure and prey preference, because it is very important to know what the leopards actually diets. And the survey itself is officially led by the Ministry of Forestry of Indonesia, and it is not possible to be carried out without strong collaboration from partners. So we were able to engage a total of 8 private sectors to support in terms of funding. And so far, we have been able to put together up to 50 local NGOs or local groups from the communities. Progress to date, 14 out of 21 target landscape has been completed, and we detect the leopard in 11 out of those 14 landscapes that has been completed. We a total of more than 78,000 trap days has been collected, covering a total of 3,200 kilometers square. So here, the primary result of the survey, as you can see that we detect the leopard on the 11 out of 14 completed landscapes. And if you can see in the circle in red, that 2 of the largest detections are in non-protected area. We have been able to identify a total of 125 leopard individuals, including 13 cubs. Okay, I think that's all from me. I invite you to join me in this journey, one that requires courage, collaboration, and innovation. Together, we can secure a future where the Javan leopard continues to thrive in harmony with people and landscapes across Java. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vibisano, for wonderful presentation. So there are a couple of questions for you. Is there any plan for conservation breeding of Javan leopards and then rewilding them in future?
I don't think so, because as we know that leopards breed easily, and we still have I think like viable population on the ground. So as far as I know that breeding is not yet an option for us.
Yeah. And there is a question by Dr. Andre Koshlin. So he compliments you. And then what is the division and coordination of roles between CINTAS and the government agencies in the Javan Leopard Conservation Program?
Well, as I said in my presentation, that the initiative is actually led by the government of Indonesia. In this case, it is the Ministry of Forestry, and we work closely with the provincial level national parks. So we actually work closely with the government, and also the survey itself is not aimed only for the survey itself, but we also building collaborations and network at the ground level with those local NGOs especially. So it is important to maintain and to develop and maintain that network, so that in the future we will be we already have a strong network on the ground to conserve the leopards in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Vibisano, for wonderful perspective.
Thank you.
So with this, we come to an end of the technical session, and I would now like to invite Mr. Soumitra Dasgupta, the Director Program at IBCA, to deliver his concluding remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kaushik. Am I audible?
Yes. Dr. Vibisano, can you please unshare your screen? Please stop sharing your screen.
Yeah,
thank you. Over to you, sir.
So
Sorry.
I'm sure I'm audible, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So respected speakers, and distinguished guests who are present here today on this very important day for a very important program of a less iconic species, not as iconic as tiger, lion, and maybe cheetah, but it is equally important as far as its ecological services are concerned. So, distinguished speakers and guests, as we draw this enlightening and thought provoking webinar to a close, I extend my sincere and deepest gratitude to all of you in this International Day of Leopard. I'm really enthralled by the presentation of Dr. Luke, Dr. Igor, Dr. Anthony, Dr. Wibisono, Dr. Govind, perspectives of African leopard, Persian leopard, about the AI and Earth Ranger app from Dr. Anthony, from Dr. Wibisano, the Javan leopard, and the Indian perspective from Dr. Govind Bhardwaj. As you have all suggested that leopard is one of the wild animals roaming in the earth. It is one of the big cats found from Africa to Asia. And due to its versatility, the animal exists in multiple ecosystems and landscapes. As we all know, there are nine subspecies of leopard. Some of them are really endangered, and IUCN has called them critically endangered, especially the Amur leopard, the Arabian leopard, as well as the Persian leopard. In India, the situation is slightly different. The common leopard, the numbers are quite stable, and it is despite number of challenges that India faces, including the urban leopard conflict situation across India. The leopard population is still stable, but the same cannot be stated for many leopard subspecies across the globe. As we all know, that leopard is required to be conserved in the right perspective and in the right direction. Leopard is an apex species, and it is also one of the iconic big cat species that the International Big Cat Alliance will be addressing. The ecological value of leopard is immense. Therefore, conservation of leopard, there is no option or alternative, but it is a must, and it is vital to the mankind for its own existence. As you all know, we have been harping, we have been telling through many social media posts that International Big Cat Alliance will be playing a very important role in turning around the situations or the conditions or status of big cats, including the leopard, all across the globe in the 95 range countries. Its mission and the vision aligns perfectly to address the challenges that leopard faces across multiple countries today. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, distinguished speakers, let us come together in this important and auspicious day of for the conservation of leopard once again, and ensure that the population of all the leopard subspecies are at a stable state and they serve the important ecosystem services as they are expected to do so for the mankind for a better and greener planet for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for concluding remarks and aptly summarizing today's webinar. So, on behalf of IBCA, we once again thank today's esteemed speakers and participants for sparing valuable time to make the webinar successful. I would also like to thank Dr. Tamani Mondol and Mr. Aditya Best, Program Associates in IBCA Secretariat, for assisting in organizing this webinar successfully, and Sankala Foundation, our knowledge partner, for promoting the webinar on social media. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.